Good morning, everyone. Well, it's 9:03 now, so we'll get started with the webinar. Just so you're aware, my name is Laura Hodgkiss. I'm the event and training team leader here at Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce. This morning, I have with me David Kelly. He's the Executive Director for the British Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, and he's going to be doing the webinar today all about Singapore Chambers and what they're doing at the moment. For those of you that have never used the platform before, what I've just said is that we cannot see and we cannot hear you today, and you can talk to us via the chat function at the bottom or the Q&A at the end. David will be doing a quick Q&A at the end anyway, so any questions I ask, if you could just leave it till the end of the webinar, that would be absolutely fantastic. And David, it's over to you.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Laura. I will just share my screen. There we go. There we go. Great. Well, really, really good to have the opportunity to talk to you today. As Laura had mentioned, my name's David Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. So this presentation really is to just show what the Chamber's doing in Singapore and how we can provide some support to the members of the Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce as well, in terms of helping with opportunities in the region, not just Singapore itself, but more broadly and what's happening in ASEAN. So it's a very high-level presentation, but very happy to take some questions, knowing that I'm sure you've got lots of questions about the market opportunity going forwards. So a bit of background about myself. I've been in Singapore for about 5 years now. In my previous role in Singapore, before I joined the Chamber, I was a member of the Chamber. I was sat on 2 of their business committees, and really my role was an Asia-Pacific wide role, growing a professional institution, so an education training business across Asia-Pacific as a region, which is where I really started to enjoy the different nuances and cultures of trading in Asia-Pacific, and specifically in Singapore. Singapore was our regional hub. So I made the transition to the Chamber at the middle of last year, and certainly wasn't expecting within my first 12 months to be dealing with the COVID situation, which I know is going to be a huge pain point for all of us on the call today. So first and foremost, before I get started into the content and the slides, I sincerely hope you're all safe, well and upbeat today. So instead of you hearing my voice for the full duration of this, I've just got a very, very short video which encapsulates what we do as a Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. So that is just a very quick snapshot of what the Chamber's all about. I think it's much easier to do that in a video rather than to just talk through a lot of PowerPoint slides, but just to sort of highlight some of the key elements. We are a community of around about 400 corporate organisations representing just under 4,000 individuals within the network. So we're quite a sizable chamber in the Asia Pacific region. And really our purpose is, as those 3 bullet points say, to build those networks, connect businesses and create opportunities. And one of the things that we are really passionate about is about supporting the flow of trade from the UK to Singapore, helping businesses to set up. So I'll come on to that a bit later. We have fantastic relationships with UK PLCs in Singapore. We work very, very closely with the British High Commission and the Department of International Trade. A lot of that activity is around, again, supporting UK companies to come across, but also to help Singaporean companies to go back to the UK where there are opportunities, and to pair like-minded companies together to provide that support mechanism going forward. There is a partnership between both countries called the SG UK Partnership for the Future. That really is in place to strengthen the ties between the United Kingdom and Singapore, and it focuses on some core areas around defence and security, around knowledge and education, around sustainable business, around technology. So a lot of the activity that we deliver on behalf of that SG UK Partnership for the Future is supported and really championed by the British High Commission in Singapore. We also work closely with the British Council from an education perspective. There's a large flow of Singaporean students that go to study in the UK, and one of the things we're really trying to do is try and support companies and individuals that are looking at that education piece to strengthen the ties between education and industry through the British Council network. So we sit on an education working group in Singapore, which is really sort of pushing that agenda as well. And from your social point, we are partners with the British Club as well from a social element. So those that are relocating to Singapore, there's a great social scene, social network here, and the British Club forms the very heart of that. But more broadly, whilst we are an important chamber within the Asia Pacific region, we have relationships with a lot of the other chambers as well. So we work very closely within what we call the BCC network, the Britain in Southeast Asia network, where I work with my counterparts in other countries to try and support the flow of members and content and opportunities into the wider region. So a really important part of what the international chamber networks do are to engage with companies in the UK, but also if you're looking at setting up a business in Singapore, being able to support your wider growth around the ASEAN region as well. So by connecting you into the Philippines or Brunei or Cambodia or Thailand, for example, and we have those links. And one of the things that we've been doing as a consortium of chambers is becoming much more collaborative in our approach. You can probably see on that slide that we've all got lots of different types of logos, but behind the scenes, we are working much more collaboratively, pulling great content together and providing that support mechanism for British businesses that are looking to export to the ASEAN region. As the UK has pulled out of the EU, obviously the government and companies are looking at other opportunities around the world, and ASEAN has been flagged numerous times in the press. And I'll talk a little bit about what ASEAN actually is and some of the challenges there going forward. But for your perspective, knowing that you have that network and we're able to handhold you through the process of talking to other countries is quite important. So in terms of us, we're one of our 400 companies made up of. There's a real mix. As you can imagine, Singapore is quite a substantial financial hub within the Asia Pacific region, similarly with professional services and education as well. So they form the main bulk of our membership, but also there are other areas around construction and real estate, technology, marketing, tourism, shipping, oil and gas, etc. And so some really key sectors that are represented here. And I'll play back a little bit later in this presentation around how that really works with Singapore's journey and where Singapore's looking to take itself. So representing the British business community here in Singapore, a lot of our activity is channeled through our business committees. I'm sure you have business committees within your chamber as well. These are an amazing forum where companies can meet those that are already working and operating in specific sectors, dealing with certain challenges and topics. And one of the benefits of this international piece is if you are, say, within the supply chain of, let's say, cybersecurity, we can put you in touch with key people through our business committees that can help steer you through what it's like to really operate here and enable you to have that content and that support. So our British business committees are absolutely a fantastic resource of information. This is just a snapshot. So the next two slides are just a snapshot of our Sterling members, so our highest category of membership, and you can see they represent that membership demographic from education to consultancy, professional services, finance, etc. One of the things we do channel are really sort of high-profile events. For those of you that are Formula One fans, the Singapore Grand Prix is a very interesting time during the year where a lot of people congregate in Singapore. We naturally host a lot of business events around that week. This is an example of the managing director of McLaren here in Singapore, interviewing Carlos Sainz, one of their Formula One racing drivers, but talking about a key topic around how data between Formula One cars and the pits actually can translate into a business opportunity, and how the fast movement and the vast volume of data can support businesses going forward. So one of the things that we do really try to champion is around key events in the year. We have the opportunity to talk to key personalities to really engage our membership. And furthermore, our interaction with the Singapore government is extremely strong. We tend to have representation at a number of our events throughout the year, ensuring that businesses do have that absolute up-to-date real-time information coming from the government ministries and the stat boards here in Singapore, and allowing that connectivity and being able to ask questions to support their business growth in Singapore. And for those members that can't make it, those events, we do try and channel as much information back to our members as well, so that everybody's absolutely kept on board with what's happening in Singapore. And just some quick additional messages before I get on to the main crux of the presentation. We do have a membership directory. If you're looking at exploring the Singapore market, please do download our membership directory on our website. It is free, and you can you'll get a digital copy which shows you all of the members and gives you a flavour of who you can get in touch with. You can also book events online. What we have started to do now, given the COVID-19 situation that we all find ourselves in, is we've started to open up a number of events to the UK British Chamber of Commerce network, so that BCC members can also have access to our events that we're putting online. For example, we've got an economic briefing tomorrow, which has got the High Commissioner talking. It's got a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, a number of senior economists from the banks, talking about what the movement of the economy is going to look like going forwards. That is tomorrow night. Have a look at the website. It is free to attend, and it's at a very favourable time for the UK as well. So there are opportunities there as well. We do support promoting partner events. We share news, etc. All the stuff that a regular chamber would do to support you going forwards. And a series of member offers as well. And I'll come on to this in a bit more detail around how this works in terms of helping companies to export, but we do have partnership packages to help a relocation of a company to Singapore to be favourable, with discounts here for food and beverage outlets, for healthcare, for travel, for hotel chains, etc., just to support that activity and education. Okay, so what does Singapore and what does ASEAN look like? So first of all, Singapore, it is quite a small country. It's just over 700 kilometers squared. It will take you about an hour and a half in a car to go from end to end, so it's not very big at all. There are only around 5.6 million people in there, but the main sort of point of interest, certainly for the luxury good market, is that there are a vast majority of middle class categorized in the Singapore population, around about 4 million. Tax is fairly favourable here. It's at 7%. There are also benefits if you do move to Singapore on a local contract. There are tax incentives as well, tax benefits to working and residing in Singapore. But I guess one of the real sort of interests that we get from businesses is that it is the second easiest country in the world to do business in. Mainly because of the nature of the relationship between Singapore and the UK and the history that we've had, but also the fact English is its first taught language. So they do say that Singapore is almost Asia for beginners. It does feel very, very familiar when you arrive. It's very orderly. It's so it is sort of considered a great place to set up a regional hub. I will also, if anybody does know the easiest place to do business in the world, you'll get a big thumbs up at the end if you want to put that in the comments. So ASEAN more broadly, while Singapore is a very tiny island, they call it the red dot, there is a much wider market in Southeast Asia. So the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, is made up of the countries that you can see on that piece. Why is this more interesting? Well, it's the population size and the market opportunity that this provides. It is currently the 6th largest economy in the world. It's predicted that it will become the 4th largest economy in the next 10 years. So there is massive growth and appetite happening around the region. What we do find is that a lot of companies base themselves in Singapore because of the ease of setting up a bank account and a company, and the skills and the education provided by in Singapore for Singaporeans. The local talent market is very, very strong here, and the interconnectivity through the travel routes between neighbouring countries is very, very good as well. So in my previous role, we were based in Singapore. To give you an idea, it used to cost about £200 for me to go from London to Liverpool on the train return, to go from Singapore to Indonesia to Jakarta. It's about £120 on a plane. So it's very accessible to get to other areas of the Southeast Asia region from Singapore. And because Singapore is such a transient hub, and we do tend to find that a lot of companies base themselves and set themselves up here. So in terms of Singapore, these are a lot of the main sectors that the Chamber covers per se, in terms of supporting companies. I wasn't completely sure who was going to be dialing into the call, so I just thought I'd provide a bit of an overview of some of the sectors that are covered, from advanced manufacturing down to technology. You can read those on the slides there. Those that are highlighted in green are where we've got business committees that provide that support mechanism to support companies. So there are opportunities available, and those areas are very, very vibrant. There's lots of activity happening. In terms of the type of sector, HVC stands for High Value Campaign. That's the work, the joint work that we deliver with the Department of International Trade in terms of supporting UK companies to come over. So you can see some are higher on the agenda from the Chamber's perspective. Those will be slightly different from DIT's perspective, but there's some good opportunities for British businesses when they come over. Okay, so supporting trade and exports more broadly. So we have gone through a huge process of trying to make it as easy as possible to help companies that are looking at the ASEAN market and Singapore to further enhance the growth and export of British products and services. And what we've done is we've built an online portal, in essence, to support companies with a bit of information about what Singapore is all about, but also around how the Chamber can help you to export. So behind some of these buttons, there are forms that you can fill in. They're very, very quick, but they allow us to see how export-ready companies are and the right advice that we can provide to help you get on your journey to exporting to Singapore. There are sort of 5 key challenges to British businesses in Singapore, as highlighted by the Economic Development Board here. Number 1 is access to EPs, employment passes, and we can put you in touch with companies that can help you navigate some of those challenges that you may face if you're setting up a company here around employment passes, because there are certain rules around a local employment requirement that you need to have under the Ministry of Manpower rules. Secondly, they feel that setting up businesses is sometimes a stumbling block. It is actually quite simple to set up a company here, so I can go through some of that in a second with you. Thirdly, it's around some knowledge, and if you're a large organisation setting up a big presence here in Singapore, there is sometimes a recognition that there can be sometimes a challenge of sort of the local market going up the seniority ladder, which is something that the Chamber is working quite hard on in terms of helping to pull that education piece together. Access to capital and funding is usually a bit of a challenge, so we've actually addressed that through this portal here. So companies that are looking for that cash injection at different stages of your business growth and your entry into Singapore, we've got an opportunity to connect you with some funding houses, etc., that can help sort of facilitate some of that. And the fifth is around customer acquisition. So how do we help companies to actually meet new customers and help to do deals? So we help alleviate a lot of those problems through this portal. And that's all available here. And I'm sure the slides will be shared afterwards. And if there are any questions, I'm sure I can answer them. But have a look at it. And if you're at the stage where you're looking to set up a business in Singapore, you're looking to broaden your growth, or you have presence here, you're looking to broaden your growth, and please do get in touch with us and we'll see how we can help you. The forms are all quite self-explanatory online. So this is the sort of work that we do for companies. We take away a lot of the hassle by providing that in-market support whilst we are here. So a great example in a case study, I used the Chamber when I first moved to Singapore just over 5 years ago. They helped me with some business matching and some advisory services. They helped me to really look at the market and the contacts that they had, and to make my journey to Singapore less of a hard stop and more of a soft landing, to start connecting with companies through various events, networking, but also some business introductions and some e-introductions that allowed me to make contact with companies before I actually came over to the region. So that was a really great way of shortcutting my journey into Singapore and helping to grow my business regionally in the previous life. So we do a lot of that work around advisory service, providing support around doing business in Singapore and that regulatory and legislational reform, but also supporting with that route to market piece and enabling companies to be matched with like-minded partners or business opportunities or experts in the marketplace. And we deliver that in a couple of ways. We can do that completely remotely. So given the COVID situation, we've been working with the Welsh Government to deliver a virtual trade mission. That's been around delivering e-introductions and ensuring that companies are paired and can have a conversation online and start warming up to each other in terms of the opportunities and the solutions to problems piece, which is really important. And we've already had this year an export win out of that activity. So we know that this works. It's really good. And for those that are venturing into the market, we can help you when you arrive here. We can support you with in-market briefings, introductions to banks, to corporate secretarial services. We can help you to meet potential clients and customers, just to help that journey, and we provide that support in region for you. So I guess the key message here is that there is support on the other side of the world, and it's not just our chamber in Singapore that delivers this, but around the Britain and Southeast Asia network as well. Very similar services are being offered across the other chambers, and they're very, very cost-effective services as well for companies that are looking to dip their toe into the water and start exploring opportunities to export their products and services. So we do have a dedicated trade services team, and the email addresses is on the bottom there if you want to get in touch. Again, I've highlighted the web address at the bottom as well for where you can fill in our online form. And we do help, as I mentioned, with those events, those trade missions, etc. For brands that want to make a big splash into the market, those that really do resonate with the SG UK partnership for the future, we have, as I mentioned, a really good relationship with the British High Commission, and we do run a series of events during the year at the British High Commissioner's residence, and really singing the praises of and raising the profile of British business in Singapore. So we have access to venues that are quite interesting if you're looking at product launches, or you're looking at networking events, or you're wanting to get a group of people together that you want to talk to in one go quite quickly. We do a lot of this work. And we've also got a relationship with the British Club, which is an opportunity if you want to do something there, and also an exclusive relationship with the Singapore Cricket Club as well. So again, some really, really interesting venues that aren't just hotel networking venues, but where we can really entice your potential market to come and have a conversation with you if that's of interest. So where is Singapore heading? So I put up a lot of the categories that the Chamber deals with, but Singapore is quite a unique place because it's very pragmatic and proactive, and it always has a plan. And that is one of the things I would share, is that it's a very logical place to do business. They consistently have plans of where they want to go. They're very, very organised, to the point where they have the Ministry of Trade and Ministry of Trade and Industry have pulled together 23 industry roadmaps that are telling the world where they want to go around those 23 sectors that are highlighted on the screen. And each lead agency is a different stat board or ministry that is looking after that activity at the moment. So how does this work, for example? Well, within the sea transport space, for example, which is led by the Maritime and Port Authority in Singapore, we're working with a UK business who has got a unique a blockchain solution to fuels in the shipping sector, shipping being 7% of Singapore's GDP. So a huge opportunity for a UK company to come across. We've helped to sort of them to navigate where some pots of funding are available, where they can partner with companies to do some R&D and some research in Singapore to hopefully sell that product into the MPA here in region. So it's this kind of activity that allows us to really quickly navigate and show where companies can go. And I would advise you to have a look at the sectors that are available. They're all on the mti.gov.sg website to give you a good flavour of where where Singapore's wanting to get to. We are massively committed to supporting you with your exports and growth. I mentioned at the moment we've sort of moved to more of a digital platform naturally, running virtual trade missions, etc. One of the key benefits of that are trying to warm the market up for you, and then the only thing you need to do is to book a plane ticket when things start to settle down, and you can meet those opportunities in person. And we have a partnership with British Airways that is available for those that have come onto our trade missions, that provides that support mechanism for you to come over at a slightly discounted price, and that's across all ticket fares as well in the future. So that there's some financial support as well to reduce the cost of coming over to Singapore. It is about a 13.5-hour flight, so it's quite a long way. So a slightly more comfortable seat with a 10% discount often does go a long way. And then when you're in region, we can help connect you with partner hotels that have got discount rates as well. So we do really try and look after you and provide where our members have got discounts available. We can ensure that you get those as well to make your trip slightly more cost effective, because we know how expensive it can be, certainly for the smaller businesses that are exploring export opportunities on the other side of the world. Okay, so in terms of setting up a business in Singapore, these are the 5 key steps I would take. Just choose your business structure. There are a number of structures that you can set up here which are linked to different levels of visa, whether it's an employment pass or an entree pass for entrepreneurs, or a personal employment pass. Just have a look at those. There is advice available. We do have a partnership with a company called Vistra. Vistra's not the only partner we work with in this space, but they would be an organisation that can help you navigate much more the nitty-gritty of the business structure and how to set up and which is the best opportunity for you. You can register your business as a business or a rep office as well, and there are some differences in that, some nuances in that as well. There are some incentives available, so the Economic Development Board are really in place to support the flow and the growth of companies to set up in Singapore. So there might be some access to funding that is available if you're willing to partner with other organisations in region where you're looking at R&D, for example, or some key themes that are going to help Singapore to achieve its objectives. So have a look at some of the incentives that are available. Sometimes they can be a bit hard to find, but if you're looking for something specifically, please do get in touch with us at the Chamber, and we'll try and navigate for you and try and find where that could be. Do have a look at your visa and the immigration rules as well. There is a 90-day visa for those that are exploring the market. There are some rules around that, so just have a look at that. Again, this is all available on our website and on the EDB's website as well. And you can find out more information, as I've mentioned, through our sites and through our partners at the Economic Development Board and Vistra as well. The one thing I would say is it is, as I've mentioned, fairly easy to set up in Singapore. It's fairly logical. All the way through the process in terms of setting up and then getting your work permit and then your bank account and your mobile phone. It's all very, very logical. It all makes complete sense. So that does take away some of the stresses when you're looking at opening an office on the other side of the world. That can work quite well. There are also a number of companies that provide that sort of secretarial support if you need that, if you're not based in region completely and you do have a rep office here, that there is some support to allow you to have a presence whilst not actually having a physical presence here in Singapore as well. So I would suggest you keep updated. We have got a Spotify channel, a podcast channel. We are starting to interview the executive directors of other chambers, which is available to you. On our Spotify channel, there's a great conversation between the chamber in Singapore and the chamber in Indonesia as well around doing business, as well as one of their members as well that set up a business in Indonesia, that's gone through the process of looking at Indonesia as a market with hundreds of millions of people in it. So there's some really great content coming out. So there is stuff that is available to you that if you're just wanting to get a quick 20-minute snapshot of what's happening in the Philippines, in Cambodia, and Indonesia, in Singapore, you keep abreast of our Spotify channel where we're putting a lot of this activity and content on there as well. So, in summary, I hope that was a helpful sort of whiz through in terms of what the chamber does and where some of the opportunities are in Singapore, what Singapore's like to do business in, and basically it's a call to say, we're here to help, we're here to support you on your journey, and as companies are looking into ASEAN, there is a network there to help take some of that stress out for you, to help start warming up the market for you, to try and find some potential customers, to try and see whether your product will work in specific markets before you actually come here. So we can support with providing that advice. So please do get in touch with me. My email address is on the bottom there. And at that, I will be very happy to take any questions from anyone on the call. Laura, I'm not sure how I am.
Hi, David. Sorry, I just thought I'd jump in there. So usually just give everybody just a couple of minutes, just because it takes a while for people to type out the questions. So anybody that's not used the platform before, the Q&A is just at the bottom. So you just open it up and you'll be able to pop your question in there. So we'll just give you another minute just to pop any questions in that you have for David. So we do have our first question for you, David. And John just says, is it possible to organise a bank account without being present, given the current situation?
That's a very, very, very it is, on a personal level, it's very difficult to open a bank account here because you need an employment pass to be able to do that. From a business perspective, you can do that through the business secretarial service companies that allow you to set up an entity and help you through that process. So, yes, there is an opportunity to do that if you set up a legal entity.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Just got a couple of people saying hello.
Yeah, no problem. Hello. I mean, I guess just one of the questions are coming through there. I think from having experience working and growing a business in Asia Pacific and certainly Southeast Asia more broadly, I think it was almost, I guess some of my learnings around doing business in the region were every country has a nuance of culture. I know this sounds like sort of international expansion 101, but doing business in Malaysia is different to Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam and the Philippines, etc. And they all communicate in lots of different ways. So it is helpful to have the chamber network here to help you to navigate some of that. But I guess, with the UK leaving the EU and, there being a swing to look at the likes of Africa and ASEAN, there are some challenges around transferring of money inside and outside of countries, and the fact that there isn't a single currency, and that movement of people piece. So whilst it does look like a huge opportunity in terms of sort of 600 plus million people, there are some challenges there, but the Chamber Network can help you with some of those things that you're worried about.
Brilliant, fantastic. We've just got a couple more questions as well, David. So Pete's just asked, what are the costs for your trade services? Are they similar to DIT's OMIS service?
They're fairly similar. So they're quite bespoke, because we deliver exactly what you would like us to do. There is an element of some gratis support within that as well. So if you've got some questions that we can help with just to get you going, or we can provide some business introductions for you, we're very happy to do that. And then we would look at, depending on what stage you are in terms of your export journey, and how export ready an organisation is, we would then sort of work with you sort of almost on a collaborative programme to help you to pull that together. So to give you an example, we're doing a piece of research at the moment for an education brand, which is around about £1,200. It's not very expensive at all, but that's looking at all of the opportunities around education in Singapore at the moment. We do run wider trade missions as well that are sectorial. So there are access to sort of TAP grants, etc., available but within some sectors to allow you to sort of come over as well as a group. So that sometimes works quite well. But broadly, roughly, it's about £75 an hour. So it's a very cost-effective way of getting information and on-the-ground information that will help you with your business.
Wow. Fantastic. Clive's just said, thank you very much for the presentation. We opened a company in Singapore last year and we'd like to get more involved with the local chamber. So he says he's going to email you directly, and his company name is Clive Jones Global Group.
That would be amazing. Clive, we look forward to welcoming you.
Brilliant, fantastic. Just, are there any more questions just before we leave today? Just give you another minute or so just in case you do have any more questions.
If anybody's like, I always get off a call and then suddenly go, oh, I should have asked that. Laura, are you happy to share my contact details with the group today? And then if anybody does have any questions that they suddenly think about, so later over a cup of tea, they can email me directly, and I'm very happy to answer those.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we can do that for you, David, no problem. Just another question from John, just saying, we have investors in Singapore. Are you able to help us expand that?
Investors?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a really, really interesting question, and I'm very happy. I'll give a sort of a short answer so we're not holding everybody up, and perhaps we can take it offline, John. But we have noticed that we've got a lot of sort of investment members as part of the chamber, and one of the things we're trying to do is to look at opportunities for those companies to meet investment opportunities and help those to grow as well. So we're at the infancy of that journey at the moment, but very keen to pick that up. So broadly, yes, be very keen to have a conversation to see how we can support through our network to go and deliver that. But it's something that I think is a massive opportunity around finding brilliant British businesses that might just need a cash injection and try and help them to grow, and actually by pairing different levels of fund and investment into opportunities, I think might be a really exciting journey, both for British businesses, the chamber network, and those investment houses as well. So hopefully that's answered your question.
Wonderful, fantastic. Brilliant. It's just got a couple of people just thanking you on the chat there, David. What I will do is I will share your contacts with everybody that's been on the webinar today, and just want to thank everybody for attending. We do host webinars every day, and those of you that missed it or came a little bit later, we do have a webinar library as well, so you can look back at webinars that you may have missed with the chamber, and of course David's webinar today. David, I want to thank you for hosting today, and hopefully we'll see you very, very soon, and I hope everything's gets back to normal as quickly as possible in Singapore for you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Laura.
Right.
Thank you to the members as well. I hope you stay safe, well, and upbeat during this time.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, David. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.